Good morning. All right. Don't forget today is MT Live. We're doing our annual diving into the dumpster and seeing what were the underperformers beaten down and turnaround stories. Now, 12 o'clock. We'll post the link in a little bit. And so most markets and stocks that have been beaten down are attempting to make the turn back up again. It usually takes a couple of days. Today's beginning Wednesday, so we'll see, of course, what happens today. Some things to a greater degree than the others to making turns. You can see the diamonds here. There's no turn here. There's no bottoming tail bar. But this led the way up. This was the laggard that went on to make new all-time highs. And so as it's pulling back here to this minor support level, this is where it should attempt to make the turn. And well, this is the day chart. You can see it stabilized yesterday. It was several hours of just going nowhere in the afternoon. And you can see it's gapping up a little bit today. So usually these things take at least a couple of days, unless we get a really wide range. I wouldn't call this really wide range, but if we get a wide range bullish 180, that changes the bias as to it taking maybe 2 or 3 days to make the turn. That's more indicative of a V type of a bottom or a V turn. But we'll see what happens. It's in an area where buyers should begin to show up. We see that happening this morning. And we got a gap up about halfway into that red bar on the daily time frame. A lot of times there'll be some kind of a retest and pullback. We'll see how that shapes up. I want to look at the futures here before I go on to the Qs, spiders, and YM. So you see the beginning with the overnight trading, pre-market trading of making a turn on the YM. And again, the blue area is overnight, and this is during the trading day. So the move down, stabilization. And this is the kind of pattern that we'd want to see on what I'd refer to as the day chart, meaning what's a day chart? Well, let's go back to the diamonds for a second and go over here. And so the beginnings, you want to see several hours on this. I want to see several hours on the 65-minute chart where it stabilizes and begins to build a base. And, that's happening in an area of support. So that's good. Major resistance is down here, right? Minor resistance. And so as this comes down here and begins to stabilize, well, intraday anyway, it's the beginnings of a turn. And then we'll just see how this begins to shape up. And as that does, our factory work, as we like to call it, we go down to the 5-minute chart and we see, okay, as it begin to bottom out and going sideways and a combination of multiple time frames. All right. So let's look at the Qs here. And so this obviously was weaker, relative weakness, closed down below the moving averages, the 50 and the 20, gapping up here a little bit as this began to make the turn. And stocks like Meta, which led the way down, and others began stabilizing yesterday. So this is, the beginnings of a turn. Right? Down, 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 green, move up. And when we look at an up day after down days, we play called bar by bar analysis. Well, it's a green day. How far did it penetrate into the red day? When we talk about retracements. And so now it's gapping up, kind of more or less to just above the high of yesterday's bar. And so it's just the beginnings of a turning process. And I go to the 65-minute chart, and it's gapping up a little bit. And so if it stabilizes down here, maybe we get a retest and a scenario where we get this sideways correction through time. that's the ideal kind of a pattern. Whereas we get another stabilization today, we get an intraday base building and up, maybe tomorrow in a more meaningful way. And tomorrow there's the big economic reports on inflation. So we'll see, what that does, of course. And so this can fill the gap. It's in an area of support here, this congestion area right there. And this one. And so you look at that's an area. So any dips into this area down there should be buyable. So again, that's creating a bias, and then we'll see if that happens, or does it just continue to jiggle around over here today as we wait for tomorrow's news. All right. Let's go to SPY, do a comparison, and there is our bottoming tail bar. And so it came down to the 50, give or take, and got that bounce yesterday. Is there a relation with VIX futures and how a base forms if it's a V recovery? Well, the VIX, as you know, is a measure of volatility or expectations for volatility in the next 30 days. And you can see it's got this rounding kind of a bottom here. But I don't read too much into that. When you're looking at the volatility index, the really more potent information is at the highs, because as this is going up, markets are going down. Fear is a more strong emotion than greed, and the capitulation. And as the markets are going down, you want to be aware of where prior highs were in the volatility index. Oh. So when you say building a base, you're looking at this area here. If it was to spike up, the market would be spiking down. That's the inverse relationship. But you can see even like over here, it can stay at a low point for a while and just jiggle around before it does start to break out. So I would look at it intraday if you're so inclined to see which way it's trending. Might be, it tends to be helpful information. All right. So there's our bottoming tail bar on the spiders, and the same thing, it came down here yesterday and touched that gap fill area. But buyers came in, and now it's in this resistance where we are intraday here, pre-market, I should say. It's just whipping around yesterday's high. So again, the same analysis. What we're looking for today is to see, does this continue to base out, forming a bottom, some kind of a retest, and then we'll see. So start to move up. You noticed yesterday that the VIXI and VIXEC were trending down. Well, that would make sense because, look at SPY. At some point, it was trending up. The VIX would be going down. That's just the inverse relationship. Now, it just confirms what's happening intraday. Not like it was going in opposite directions. I'm repeating myself, but pay attention to when it spikes. And you can also look at the tick, NYSE tick, to see it spikes. So what we pay attention to primarily in the green room is the AD number intraday. You can see here, where is this number? Is it trending down? Is it trending up intraday? Where is it when it's trending? Meaning it's trending down and minus 1,000. It's a negative day. Is it, at minus 1,500? It's a measurement of how many stocks are advancing versus declining that day, and then which way it's trending. So being at a low number and starting to trend up, the market is improving. And then, you look at the ticks and see, is it at an extreme? And so that's the basic combination of market internals intraday that we utilize. But join the room, take a trial, you know, take a risk with $7, see if you like it. And you got the end of year specials. It's like $1.60 a day if you join for a year at the end of year special. It's a no-brainer. Okay, well, let's continue. But thank you for the questions. That's good. So again, looking for some kind of bottoming action to make a turn. That's not there yet. Obviously, it could be another down day and moving lower. So again, we just see where things are. So, with the daily chart, that turn is not in place yet. And so the way it came down, they see these overlapping bars, which creates congestion areas, which you can see right there in my little red line, this little area of congestion there to deal with. And so with SPX, here's that congestion area. So one of my comments in the room yesterday was, look, if this market has any ability to go higher, it needs to regain 6,800. And lo and behold, well, it did that in the late part of the day, but it was too late, and then it moved up a little bit and backed off. So, we'll be watching, see, do we get a retest down here today, which should be viable. Maybe it makes a lower low. You can see the congestion there. And oh, you're welcome. I'm getting a thank you for the knowledge for all these years. But there's knowledge every day in the room. The green room can be like a mini seminar day to day. Depends on the questions that are asked. But so look, it's the same story. Making turn here. There are the strikes today. Nothing got touched yesterday. This is far away. And so the downside with traders inclined to buy the dip, it is a triple witching opposite expiration. It's unlikely there's going to be any crashes or crazy moves, but if it makes the turn, again, we might be able to get some kind of a meaningful advance. There's still pretty big bets. Let's see some adjustment here. I'm just looking at open interest. Came down a little, 6,700 put, 6,900. So it came down, the call interest came down from 7,000 to 6,900. So things are tightening up. Some lower expectations for a meaningful move higher, where there was expectations for 7,000. Now it's backed off to 6,900. Let's see what today does. If we get that bottoming action today, there's a greater probability of a more meaningful move into the end of the week. All right. I'm getting a little long here. So Bitcoin still, it dropped down, holding here. Just not sure what it's going to do yet. Got a decent base there on the retest, and it's got some room to move up. But what we really want to look for, and it doesn't matter whether it's Bitcoin or anything else, right? This is on some support. This is why we look at these pivots. We know that there's some support there, but ideally what we get is the kind of patterns we're looking for is a multiple day move down to a more significant support and maybe breaking that low, and then these kind of a patterns. Because the more it comes down, especially if it does it with velocity, and there's a greater potential to move back up, more meaningful move back up again. All right. So there's Ethereum, same story. It's kind of holding here. We'll see what it's going to do, if it makes the turn or it's going to be lower. Crude oil is up a little bit. That's been trending down. So technically makes sense for it to do that as it's breaking the low. But, there's news about Venezuela and blockades and oil short, who knows, whatever, more BS going on over there. But, again, helps for inflation for this to go down. It's violating the low down there. weekly chart. It'd be really interesting to see if it keeps dropping down to these levels, way down there and what happens. But yeah. And so, we're going to look at interest rates here for a moment because they are threatening, right? These are bond prices, but you can see this topping pattern and the break. And so now it's in an area where it should, doesn't matter what it is, but price is coming up to a breakdown area where it should go down. And if it does, right, the inverse relationship is that interest rates will go up. And so there's your 10-year, and you can set an alert and see if it actually breaks out. Oh, but maybe it moves down, back down to the congestion area. So look, everything that we're talking about here this morning and yesterday, it's about, well, the Fed made their move. Yesterday's economic reports, jobs were kind of mixed. And so now there's this uncertainty, options expiration, end of the year, so on and so forth. And the patterns display the pictures of uncertainty right now. Which more certain is gold. And so it's just jiggling around here. We had these buy setups. It hasn't been able to move up here, during the trading day, but it certainly looks like it's going to do that. The trend is up. Silver is up. As you can see, continues to push higher. It looks like it'll continue to move higher. And other than that, we'll just see how today unfolds. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. I don't have a whole lot going on here. We've been doing really well in shorts in trail mode. Closed a number of them at beautiful profits yesterday. This was one right here I ran. We trail stopped out yesterday. Arms, like always, Mike Papa. We're short. I had a little alarm go off there, but we're in trail mode on that. A lot of breakdowns we've been trading. Spiders up alarm. We have a call spread. We have a half lot trail mode. AMBA trail mode. Up alarm. So let me put that one in a window to watch, and probably, you know what, let's move stock 5-minute high. I'll just do it right now. 1 second. And yeah, today the news has been saying this is the last full week of the year. Next week, lower week, produced Christmas and New Year's. Second, posting us for subscribers. I usually do all this an hour ago, but the alarm just went off. All right. PGY, we're in trail mode, break even stop. Set cost basis. 2263. Yeah, let's go ahead and close that pre-market. And I don't have many tier one setups here. Look at that, Curdo, CRDO is I have on my list. Looks good. I've been watching it for a week now. Erdo alarm went off. All right, look, this is the definition of fluid. Fluid it's retracing calmly, relatively equal, opens and closes, no overlapping bars. So it blasted up. It's a deep, this is also a good example of retracement analysis. So from here to here is amazingly bullish. Went through this pivot, this pivot. So my bias would have been, hey, that shouldn't retrace more than a third. But it was so robust, there's no support. So I actually was eyeing it to reverse right here at the 20 MA, didn't do it. Well, so what? It's gapping up here, so I like that for 30-minute high trade or control pullback. Stopped yesterday's low, and we're just not expecting a new high, but big deal. It's a good trade setup. All right, Len, oh shoot, that's down at 110 now. All right, we actually did a condor on this out of the money call spread, out of the money put spread, but our out of the money put spread was 110. We only did $2 wide, took in 60 cents. That's all. I'll watch that at the open. Call alarm. Oh, nice. I said to sell a third pre-market. I sent an alert out. Look at this. That was my target, 150, but we're only selling a third. But nice trade. That's in our ETF winner. Amgen, we sold a put spread the other day. Greg was talking pre-market about the turn. That's a turn. Look, get a 3-bar turn and then a gap up on Monday. That's when we shorted a put spread. Yeah, could have been a directional too for a 3-day top. D-Dog, we're still short. I mean, trail mode looks good. GT, we had an alarm go off. We have long calls there. Just gotta sit with it. That's it on alarms. Let's go to these other earnings. I don't have many. Just flopping around. No interest in that. Jabil 224. It's a big gap, but there's no pattern. It's gapping. Well, my strategy possibly would be iron condor for Friday. Let's see what it does at the open. You can't rush into these because it could rip up or tank down. So you got to see what it does in the first 30 minutes. But to do a condor, you want it to stay in a narrow range, and then we'll look at the 235s and the 210s. DTC 76. That's the bullish gap, but you know what? The monthly is a nice monthly says could go to 80. Oh, the gap's just too big. ABM bullish gap, but up too much. I think this one's getting whacked, $7. But no, it's totally stabilized here pre-market. Look, FIMO, and it's now going sideways at $7. I'll keep an eye on that one, and that's it. So no, look how small my interest list is. A path. This is another great example that we're waiting for the turn. Alex sitting here this morning, but I was going to say he was buying this yesterday morning, and I made the exact comment. I'm like, no, hope your stop is given a little breathing room because there's no turn yet, and there's still not. Ideally, today it'll go down and give us a bottoming tail at or below the 20 MA. OEC bottoming pattern. So that's today's subject, MT Live. Is that a quality bottoming pattern? I'd say yes, but it has to get over these highs on the daily. So I like that. We're gonna set an alarm at 5:30. And I already have one. Yeah. All right, so Paul and then PPLT is another one of these metals. Palladium. Nice. Yeah, we've been trading those well. This is a short idea if it keeps bobbling with inside bars and then the market decides to turn. You'd short the lows of that. NEOG, it's a bull rectangle, needs to settle down a little bit. I want a couple more inside bars. TXG. Trying to make the turn, but see this is, well, this is fluid. This is fluid. But from here to here is not, because this was a buy setup that failed, and this was a breakdown. So it's still tradable, but just for a 2 to 3 day bounce. I don't even think this is going to get up to the 20 MA, but it's trying, here it tried to make a turn. Now it's trying to make a turn lower at the 50. But we're active traders, so that's worth watching. A 2 to 3 day bounce. Below 1440. Yeah, it's a sloppier bottoming pattern, but I like this 3 bar and then a nice potent turn. Good see Q's already stalled here pre-market on the 5-minute chart. There, this is a momentum move, so there's no support, but it's making the turn. When these don't have support, I like these when you get a failed buy setup, and then it makes a new low reversal. And we used to call that the second time around. And we didn't get sucked in the first one, but we still know it's bullish daily, weekly, but we're watching it for exactly that, a new low reversal. And Place had earnings or lack thereof. That thing's getting killed. That's ugly. That's having some fundamental problems. No interest. Equinome and Albemarle are up on higher commodity prices. There's a bottoming pattern. That's a good bottoming pattern, but it's not ready yet. But it's a bottoming patterns. There's different levels of readiness, and this one is not ready, but it's worth watching. So I'm going to set an alarm at 6660 for now. And when I say worth watching, that's a day by day decision. Like if it continues lower, if it comes all the way to low of this green bar, then forget about it. Then I got no interest anymore. ANET was a short watch yesterday. It's an early alarm, but that's a bear 1, 2, 3, 4. Worth watching. I'm going to set an alarm at 124.50. GT alarm. There, it's an early alarm, but it's not acting right. Alarm 878. Mike Papa alarm, we're in trail mode, where's our stop? Mike Papa 5462. All right, so that stopped cleanly as with a nice gain. So we're out of Mike Papa. The next target. Okay, so we have 2/3 left. We got out of a third at 50 through 70. 54.31. All right, done with him. Berto, I'm watching. Amba. Oh, Amba's okay. Let's move stuff yesterday's high. All right, so 73.42 on Amba. Yeah, so the gap turned out not to be a problem. Amba. Oh, it just hit 73.42. All right, so all right. What's wrong with my alarms? Pretty slow morning here. All right, so we're out of Amba now, trail stop.
Semiconductors whip back down kind of hard. Q's are holding here.
Banks up.
Yeah.
Yes, A-Bat, it's not ready, but I'll just label him a potential bottoming pattern. D-Dog, still relative weakness. We're in trail mode. Our Boeing up alarm, nice. Move the stop, 204.38. Midpoint, 202. Oh, Q's falling hard.
Yep. SMH is, they're on support here.
I told you I wasn't in a hurry to do anything this morning. Bowling 202. We have actually light inventory now. We had big inventory long, and then it slowly went to fully, not fully, but more short. And now it's interesting.
Basically, you can't make up your mind whether you want to be long or short.
No, exactly opposite. If you were to put a line graph on our let's just call it spider weighted beta, which means take all our positions and are you bullish or bearish beta, that our line chart was like perfect of our exposure of, of up, sideways, down, and now it's lightened. So no, we've done well. All right, so we're at half. Let's close half of Boeing.
I think the Dow, Dow one bullish 123 on the 5 minute, or U Dow or the futures best looking for some kind of long scalp. Not moving yet.
Len, should have totally forgot about him. Man, I gotta pay attention. All right, we have a nice open profit. I'm gonna leave the call spread. Let's just close the put spread here. It's 33.
Yeah. Delta 20, Netflix. That could be a put spread, Dan. I know there's news about it, but the pattern supports a put spread.
Second.